They say the person at your gate holds the keys to your life. He sees when you leave, when you return, who comes in, and who goes out. A good gate man is your shield. But what if the very man paid to protect you is the one planning your destruction? This is the chilling story of Baba Musa, the evil gate man. The Okoro family had just finished building their beautiful house in Enugu. It was a dream come true, paint still fresh, walls sparkling, and the compound wide enough to host family events. But there was one problem. They needed someone to guard the gate. One evening, a neighbor casually recommended a man. If it's security you want, there's one man. Reliable, quiet, never gives trouble. His name is Baba Musa. The next day, Baba Musa appeared. He was tall, slim, and carried an old bag over his shoulder. His voice was deep, his smile forced, and his eyes too sharp, like he could see into your soul. When Mr. Okoro asked about salary, Baba Musa waved his hand. No need for much money, sir. Just food and a small room by the gate. That's enough for me. The family thought they had struck gold. But that night, the first red flag appeared. The compound dogs barked uncontrollably, charging toward his small room. Their fur stood up, teeth bare, as if they had seen a wild beast. Baba Musa didn't flinch. He only stared at them with his cold eyes until they whimpered and crawled back. Amara, the Okoro's eldest daughter, watched from her window and shivered. Days passed and Baba Musa settled in. But soon things started to feel off. At night, Amara heard him whistling strange tunes by the gate. The sound was haunting, like a song meant for spirits. Sometimes neighbors complained, "Your gate man was outside our window at midnight, just standing, watching." On the compound walls, he began scratching strange marks with charcoal. When Amara asked, he smiled, "Just decoration, young lady." The family dismissed it. But Amara couldn't shake the unease. It wasn't long before strange misfortunes hit the household. The chickens in the backyard began disappearing, one after the other. When found, their bodies were drained of blood. The housemaid, Ngozi, woke up screaming one night. Her arms had fresh scratches. She swore she saw Baba Musa in her dream, chasing her with a knife. Amara herself started feeling weak. Doctors said she was fine, but she felt watched, as though Baba Musa's eyes never left her. One evening, when Baba Musa left for the market, Amara's curiosity got the better of her. She sneaked into his small room. Inside, she found a clay pot filled with animal bones and feathers, a small black diary, written in strange handwriting, a piece of paper with the names of every member of her family listed and dates written beside them. The next date circled in red was hers. Her heart pounded. She ran to tell her father, but he only laughed. "Amara, stop imagining things. The man is harmless. He even refused salary. Who does that if not a good person?" But Baba Musa overheard her. Later that night, he whispered to her as she passed the gate, "Young girl, don't poke your nose into matters beyond you. If you want to live, keep quiet." Amara froze. She realized her father wouldn't believe her. She was on her own. Amara lay in her bed that night, tears stinging her eyes. She had tried again to warn her father, but he only laughed, brushing her words aside like smoke. "Amara, you've been watching too many movies," he said sternly. "Baba Musa has served us faithfully. Please don't bring confusion into my house." His words pierced her heart. If her father, her protector, would not believe her, who else would? She pulled the blanket over her head and wept silently, praying for God to open his eyes. A week later, the sky tore open with a heavy downpour. The rain beat hard against the zinc roof, and thunder rolled across the night. Amara tossed restlessly, unable to sleep. Then, through the curtains, she noticed a strange red glow flickering outside, near the garden. Her heart froze. Curiosity overpowered her fear. She tiptoed to the window and pulled the curtain slightly. There he was. Baba Musa knelt under the storm, drenched, but unmoved by the heavy rain. A small clay pot sat before him, flames dancing from within. In his hands he held a picture. Amara squinted her father's picture. Musa's lips moved quickly, muttering words in a tongue Amara could not understand. He poured some dark liquid onto the ground, then raised the picture to the sky as lightning cracked above him. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her legs trembled. She wanted to scream, but fear glued her lips shut. That same night, as the family gathered in the sitting room to wait out the storm, Mr. Okoro suddenly let out a groan. His body stiffened, and he collapsed violently on the floor. "Papa!" Amara screamed, rushing to him. Her mother and Junior joined, their cries filling the house. They poured water on him, fanned him desperately. But his eyes rolled back, and within minutes, they carried him through the rain into a car and rushed him to the hospital. The waiting hours at the hospital were torture. Amara clung to her mother, praying, begging God for mercy. But just before dawn, the doctor emerged, face heavy with sorrow. "I'm sorry, he didn't make it." The world shattered in that moment. Mrs. Okoro wailed so loudly that nurses had to hold her. Amara fell to the ground, beating her chest, tears pouring uncontrollably. Junior sobbed until his small body shook. It was a sight too painful for words. The other children, abroad in different countries, were called. Their cries came through the phone, distance making their grief heavier. The Okoro home sank into mourning. But little did they know the worst had only just begun. Amara tried to recall the events of that night, but every time she closed her eyes, her memory blurred. It was as though a fog had settled in her mind. The image of Baba Musa, with the red glow and her father's picture, faded into nothingness. Musa had worked his charms well. Not only that, he turned his dark powers toward Mrs. Okoro. Slowly she began to see him differently, not as a servant, but as someone she strangely felt drawn to. She found herself listening to his advice, sharing things she wouldn't normally tell a gateman. At night she sometimes caught herself thinking of him with a longing she could not explain. The evil web was tightening around the family. The Okoro family home grew quieter after the burial. Black cloth still hung over the gate, and visitors had stopped coming. But inside the walls, something darker than grief was beginning to take root. Musa no longer acted like a servant. His voice grew louder in the house, his presence heavier. One warm evening, Mrs. Okoro sat on the balcony, lost in thought. Her wrapper clung to her waist, her eyes swollen from crying. Musa came quietly, carrying a tray of fruit. He placed it beside her, then bent low, his face uncomfortably close. Before she could react, he leaned forward and kissed her lips gently. At first her eyes widened in shock, but then, as though something pulled her from within, she closed her eyes and didn't resist. A smile tugged at Musa's mouth. "You're mine now?" he whispered, staring into her dazed eyes. From that night, the charm tightened. Mrs. Okoro no longer questioned his authority. She obeyed his every word like a woman possessed. And it didn't stop with her. The children, too, Amara, Junior, began to feel his influence. They grew strangely quiet around him, nodding to his commands without argument. No longer content with his small room at the gate, Musa began spending nights inside the main house. Slowly he moved his belongings into Mr. Okoro's bedroom. Soon he started lying on the same bed with Mrs. Okoro. Neighbors whispered, "Why does the gate man's shadow linger inside the big house at night?" But no one dared confront him. Musa walked boldly in the compound now, no longer bowing or using honorifics. He had become the master. Weeks later, the older children, Chica and Emmanuel, flew in from abroad for their father's memorial. From the moment they arrived, they felt something was off. "Mama, why is Baba Musa sitting at Papa's chair during dinner?" Chica whispered to Amara. Why is he giving instructions to the driver? Emmanuel added. Amara only stared blankly. She couldn't explain it. The fog in her mind still lingered, but Chica noticed more. She saw Musa's hand brush across her mother's back at the balcony, saw her mother giggle faintly, almost like a young girl. The sight unsettled her deeply. Something is wrong here, she muttered to Emmanuel. Very wrong. At the same time, whispers began to spread in the community. The police, investigating a string of wealthy families who had suddenly collapsed, discovered a chilling pattern. All of them had once hired recommended gate men, and in nearly every case, those gate men had vanished after tragedy struck. The trail pointed to a secret cult, one that placed men like Musa in homes, tasked with sacrificing family members slowly for wealth and spiritual power. When one of the investigators stumbled upon the Okoro file, he paused. This family recently lost their patriarch, and they have a gate man. We must act fast before it's too late. But by then, Musa's control over the family was nearly absolute. The Okoro compound looked calm on the surface, but inside it, shadows moved in silence. Musa's grip on the family was strong, but cracks had begun to show. Unlike Amara and Junior, Chica noticed the strangeness around her mother. Mama no longer cooked, no longer attended church, no longer wore black in mourning. Instead, she tied new wrappers, powdered her face, and smiled dreamily whenever Musa walked by. One night, Chica confronted her in the kitchen. Mama, what's going on? Why is Baba Musa in Papa's room? Mrs. Okoro turned slowly. Her eyes glazed like someone half asleep. Chica, don't speak against him. He protects this house now. Chica's blood ran cold. Protect? From what? He's the one destroying us? From that moment she knew Musa had bewitched them all. But somehow his charm didn't fully sink into her spirit. Something in her resisted. One rainy evening, Emmanuel returned late from visiting a friend. As he entered the compound, lightning flashed, and for the first time, he noticed a padlocked door near the gatehouse. Curiosity burned. Why would a gate man need a secret room? The next afternoon, while Musa was at the balcony with Mama, Emmanuel slipped to the door. Using a spare key from the toolbox, he forced it open. What he saw made his knees weak. Inside were calabashes filled with thick red liquid. Old bones wrapped in black cloth. Photographs of families, including their own father's picture, pierced with rusty nails. And in the corner, a small wooden stool held a book bound in leather, with strange inscriptions that looked older than the town itself. He snapped a few pictures on his phone and locked the room back. That night he showed them to Chica, her face drained of color. This is evidence. Musa is not just a gate man. He is the reason Papa died. Chica and Emmanuel rushed to the local police station the next morning. They showed the photos, explained their suspicions. The officer in charge, Inspector Daniel, stared at the pictures for a long time. His lips pressed into a thin line. You must leave this matter, he finally said in a hushed tone. For your own safety. What do you mean? Emmanuel demanded, but Daniel only shook his head. The cult you are poking at, they have men inside the police, even here. If I were you, I'd protect my life first. Fear clutched the siblings. Who could they trust? That night, Chica's fear became reality. Thunder rumbled as she tiptoed past the living room. Through a crack in the door, she saw Musa standing over Mama. Her mother sat on the floor, dazed, while Musa chanted words in a strange tongue. In his hand, a razor glinted. He sliced her palm, letting drops of blood fall into a calabash. Chica gasped too loudly. The sound made Musa whirl around. Their eyes met. For the first time she saw his true face, not the smiling servant, but a predator cloaked in dark power. You shouldn't have seen this, Musa said calmly, dropping the razor. Chica's legs trembled, but she forced herself to speak. You killed Papa, and now you're destroying Mama. Musa smiled. Your Papa's life was just the beginning. This family has not finished paying its debt. He took one slow step toward her. Musa's bare feet padded across the tiles as he moved closer to Chica. His lips shifted quickly, forming words in a language that felt older than the earth itself. The air thickened, the walls seemed to close in, and a cold wind swept through the house. His eyes turned red, and he stretched a hand toward her forehead. Sleep, obey, forget, he muttered, his voice echoing like many voices at once. But Chica did not bow. Her chest heaved, but her spirit pushed back with a strength she never knew she had. Instead of falling under his spell, her pulse grew louder, boom, boom, and Musa's chant broke midway. His brows knitted in confusion. What? Why doesn't it work on you? Chica's hands trembled, but she lifted her chin. Because I am not like the rest of them. Musa's lips curled into a dangerous smile. Then you are the one I must break first. Before he could step closer, Chica darted through the corridor, flung open the front door, and ran barefoot into the storm. Rain drenched her clothes, but she didn't stop. She ran until the glowing compound lights disappeared behind her. She didn't know where to go. But something whispered in her heart, find the priest. Her late grandmother had once spoken of a man, Father Gabriel, a retired Catholic priest who had fought dark forces in villages before. People whispered that he saw things ordinary eyes couldn't. By dawn, she reached a small church at the edge of town, where the old man now lived in quiet retirement. Her knocks were frantic. When the door opened, Father Gabriel looked at her, rain-soaked, eyes wild with fear. My child, who is chasing you? He asked, voice calm yet sharp. Chica fell to her knees, sobbing. Father, my family is under a spell. Our gate man killed my father, now he controls my mother. Please, I need help before he destroys us all. Gabriel studied her face. Then, without another word, he fetched a wooden cross, sprinkled water from a clay pot, and whispered a prayer. You are strong, girl. I can see it. That is why his charm failed. But strength alone won't save your family. The darkness inside your house is not just one man, it is a covenant, bound by blood. Chica shivered. What do I do? The priest's eyes narrowed. You must go back, but not empty-handed. I will prepare you with weapons that are not of flesh. Meanwhile, Musa prowled the compound like a restless lion. Where is she? He barked, glaring at Emmanuel and Junior. Where is your sister? Junior stammered. I don't know. Musa leaned down, his eyes burning into the boys. If she tells anyone, all of you will pay. Do you understand? Junior's lips quivered as he nodded. But deep inside, a flicker of memory stirred something Musa had whispered to him before. Something about the next sacrifice. That memory refused to stay buried. For 3 days, Chica stayed under Father Gabriel's care. He taught her how to recognize signs of spiritual traps, how to resist manipulation, and how to use prayers and sacred psalms as shields. One evening, as the sun sank low, he placed a small leather pouch in her hands. Inside this pouch is a relic blessed with fire and blood of martyrs. If Musa tries to harm you again, this will reveal his true form. But remember, child, the battle is not only against Musa. The cult he serves will not let him fall alone. Chica swallowed hard. She knew what awaited her at home. Yet, she also knew running forever was not an option. She clenched the pouch. Then I'll fight. For Papa. For Mama. For my siblings. The rain had stopped. A heavy silence hung over the Okoro compound that night, broken only by the soft rustle of tree leaves. The darkness seemed to throb with life, as if unseen eyes watched every corner. Chica returned home quietly. her fingers clutching the leather pouch Father Gabriel had given her. The compound felt different, as though the soil itself resisted her steps. The moment she stepped through the gate, Musa's voice thundered from the shadows. "So, the stubborn one has returned." He stepped out, eyes glowing faintly red. But Chica noticed something new behind him were 7 men in black robes, faces hidden, carrying strange calabashes and staffs carved with symbols. Mrs. Okoro and Junior stood near the balcony, their faces blank, eyes glassy under Musa's spell. Emmanuel had his head bowed, as if drained of all will. Chica's heart broke, but she shouted, "Mama." "Junior, don't be afraid, I'm here," Musa sneered. "They do not hear you. They are mine now. And tonight, their blood will strengthen our altar." The cult members began chanting, their voices deep and terrifying, rising with the sound of drums that weren't there. Just as the chanting grew louder, Junior clutched his head. The relic in Chica's pouch glowed faintly, sending ripples of light across the compound. Junior gasped, his eyes clearing. "Sister, I remember. He said I would be the next sacrifice." Musa's face twisted with rage. "Shut your mouth, boy." But it was too late. Junior stumbled to Chica's side. Though trembling, he whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." The robed men raised their calabashes, red smoke rising into the sky, forming strange shapes that looked like human faces. The ground shook slightly, and Mrs. Okoro screamed as if her body was tearing apart. "Stop this madness!" Chica cried. She pulled out the relic pouch. The glowing intensified, and the cultists staggered back. One of them hissed, "She carries the mark of resistance." Another growled, "If she continues, the altar will crumble." Musa lunged forward, his body twisting unnaturally. His skin shifted, his face elongating half man, half beast. His voice became guttural, echoing multiple tones. "You cannot defeat me, child. I have walked this earth for centuries." But Chica's voice rose, trembling yet strong. "No weapon formed against us shall prosper. Father, rise and scatter the enemies." She fell to her knees and began to pray aloud. Tears streamed down her face as she shouted scripture after scripture. Her words filled with desperation and fire. The relic in her hands blazed like lightning. The chanting of the cultists cracked, faltered, and turned into screams. One by one, their bodies flickered like shadows in firelight until they vanished into the air. Musa howled, clawing at the sky, but the prayers burned through him. His monstrous form twisted, his body smoked like paper set ablaze, and with a final shriek that shook the compound, he too disappeared. Then silence. Only the sound of Chica's sobs and her family's cries filled the night. When morning came, Mrs. Okoro and her children woke as if from a long dream. The glassiness in their eyes was gone. They hugged Chica tightly, crying with relief and regret. "I remember nothing," Mrs. Okoro whispered, tears soaking Chica's shoulder. "But I feel like I've just been pulled from a grave." Emmanuel and Junior clung to her, their young faces pale with exhaustion. They could barely believe their once trusted gate man had been part of something so dark. Life slowly returned to normal. The family prayed together every morning and evening, no longer careless about their spiritual lives. Their mansion, once silent and heavy, now rang with hymns and worship songs. Yet sometimes, when the night was too quiet, they wondered where Musa and his cult really destroyed. Or had they simply vanished into another shadow, waiting for a new opportunity? One evening, Father Gabriel visited the family. He placed his hand on Chica's head and smiled. "You are proof that light is always stronger than darkness. Evil may rise in disguise even as a gate man, but it can never stand where faith, courage, and prayer dwell." Chica nodded, tears in her eyes. "I only wanted to save my family." "And you did," Gabriel replied. "Never forget, What protects a home is not wealth or high fences, it is prayer, vigilance, and unity. From that day, the Okoro family became known in their community, not just for their wealth, but for their faith and humility. And though the memory of Baba Musa lingered like a scar, it became a reminder that evil hides in plain sight, but good, when steadfast, will always prevail. Evil can come in the form of people we trust the most. Always stay prayerful and watchful. No matter how strong darkness appears, light will always conquer it. True protection for every family is not wealth, but prayer, unity, and vigilance. Be careful who you let into your home. Not everyone smiling with you is truly for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. More powerful and interesting stories are coming your way. We remain Delia Story Time on all platforms. Bye for now.